The night was biting cold, the kind of cold that doesn't just touch your skin but sinks into your bones and makes you wonder if warmth was ever real. James Alder, CEO of Alder Tech, sat in the back of his chauffeured black sedan, scrolling half-heartedly through a set of financial reports he'd already memorized. The driver's voice cut through his thoughts. "Sir, there's a lady at the bus stop. She looks unwell." James looked up. Through the tinted glass, he saw her, a young woman in scrubs, her thin coat doing little to protect her from the December wind. Her shoulders were hunched, lips pale, hands tucked into her armpits for warmth. She wasn't looking at her phone like most people did to distract themselves from discomfort. She was simply staring at the cracked pavement, eyes distant. He could have ignored it. He had ignored countless scenes like it before. The city was full of people rushing through their own storms, and James had built his empire by focusing only on what he could control. But something about her stillness in that chaos caught him. Maybe it was the way she seemed invisible to the crowd, or the quiet resignation on her face. "Pull over," James said. The driver hesitated. "Sir, you heard me. Pull over." When the car stopped, James stepped out into the wind, his custom wool coat instantly feeling too thin. He walked toward her. The woman glanced up briefly, her eyes a sharp gray blue, then looked away as if uninterested. "You'll freeze out here," he said. "I'm fine," she replied quickly. Her voice was soft but carried a firm edge, like someone accustomed to ending conversations before they began. "You don't look fine," she sighed, shifting her weight. "The bus will come, eventually." James glanced at the empty street. No bus in sight, no headlights. "Where are you headed?" "Home." The word sounded heavier than it should. Something in him wanted to keep asking, though he didn't know why. "Come with me," he said, without planning it. Her brow furrowed. "Excuse me." "Come with me. I'll drive you home, or wherever you need to go." "I don't take rides from strangers," she said flatly. James almost smiled. "Fair enough. I'm James Alder." Recognition flickered in her eyes, but it wasn't the kind of awe he was used to. More like mild acknowledgement. "The tech guy. That's one way to put it." She hesitated. The wind blew harder, whipping a strand of hair across her face. She didn't move to fix it. Her knuckles were pale from cold. Finally, she spoke. "My name's Lily, and no offense, but I don't know you." "I'm fine here." "Lily," he said, trying the name out loud, "what if I told you I just wanted to help?" She gave him a tired, almost pitying smile. People don't do that without a reason. Maybe she was right. Maybe part of him was just curious. But he also remembered the look she had when he first saw her. Not desperation, not anger, just quiet surrender. And something about that felt wrong to leave alone. At last, she shivered violently and glanced again down the empty street. "Fine, but only to the next bus stop closer to my place." James gestured toward the car. "Deal." Inside, the warmth was immediate, but Lily kept her arms wrapped around herself like she didn't want to let the cold go. He noticed her shoes, scuffed white sneakers, damp at the toes. "You're a nurse?" he asked, nodding toward her scrubs. "Yeah, long shift." She let out a dry laugh. 16 hours. 3 code blues. 2 patients lost. His usual meetings and contract negotiations suddenly felt small. "That's heavy." "It's the job." Silence filled the space for a moment. Then James spoke again, surprising even himself. "What if I didn't take you to another bus stop? What if I took you somewhere warm, made sure you got a hot meal, and let you rest?" She turned her head to look at him fully for the first time. Her gaze was steady, like she was assessing his sincerity. "Why?" "Because," he said, "I think maybe you're the kind of person who's always giving, and right now, you need someone to give back." Her expression didn't soften, but something in her eyes shifted. "You talk like you know me." "I don't," he admitted. "But I'd like to." That was how it began. With a CEO who'd built walls so high he forgot how to look over them, and a nurse who stood in the cold because she'd been taught not to expect rescue. Neither of them knew that this small decision, this detour from routine, would end up rewriting more than just their evening. Lily didn't speak much as the car moved through the city. James, usually impatient with silence, found himself respecting it. He could see the exhaustion etched into her features, the way her shoulders slumped not just from physical fatigue but from weeks, maybe months, of carrying too much. When the driver asked for an address, Lily hesitated. Then, instead of giving him her own, she surprised herself. "Take us somewhere you think is warm," she said. James didn't hesitate. "The Alder residences," he told the driver. Her brow furrowed. "You're home. Unless you know a better place with central heating, a fireplace, and food that doesn't come from a vending machine." She almost smiled, but it faded quickly. "You're not going to expect anything, right?" It wasn't an unreasonable question. James had seen too many men treat kindness like an investment. He shook his head. "Just dinner. Maybe tea. Then I'll have you driven home, if you still want that." She studied him for a long moment before leaning back into the seat. "All right." The Alder penthouse was all glass and soft light, high above the restless city. The moment they stepped inside, warmth wrapped around them like a thick blanket. Lily stood near the window, staring out at the twinkling skyline. "Beautiful," she murmured. "Overrated," James said, walking toward the kitchen. "Beauty is meaningless if you're looking at it alone." She turned toward him, an unreadable expression on her face. "You talk like you've been lonely for a while." He didn't answer. Instead, he poured her a cup of hot tea and set it in her hands. She wrapped her fingers around it, inhaling the steam like it was medicine. They ate simple food: roast chicken, warm bread, fresh vegetables. Lily ate slowly at first, as if unsure she was allowed to, but soon hunger took over. James noticed the small sigh she gave after her first bite, and it made something tighten in his chest. After dinner, they sat in the living room by the fireplace. The flames painted her face in soft gold. She began to talk. Not about herself, not directly, but about the people she'd cared for that day. The elderly man who died holding a photograph of his wife. The young mother who survived surgery but didn't know yet if she'd walk again. The teenager who joked with the nurses to hide how scared he was. "You see people at their worst," James said quietly. "Sometimes," she replied, "but you also see them at their best. I guess that's why I stay." He studied her. "And who takes care of you?" Her lips curved into a sad smile. "I'm fine." He wanted to challenge that, but before he could, she said, "Why did you stop for me tonight?" James thought about lying, about saying it was impulse, or pity, or curiosity. But the truth slipped out. "Because you looked like you'd been standing in the cold for a long time, and I know what that feels like." Not the weather. The other kind of cold. They were quiet after that, but it wasn't the awkward kind. It was the kind where two people realized they might understand each other more than they expected. When it got late, James offered to have the driver take her home. But Lily shook her head. "Not yet. Just let me sit here a little longer." So they did. Hours passed, and somewhere between the glow of the fire and the city lights beyond the glass, Lily fell asleep on the couch. James covered her with a blanket and found himself watching her. Not in the way he'd once watched business rivals or potential deals, but in the way you watch something you don't want to break. In the morning, she woke to the smell of coffee and fresh pastries. "This feels strange," she admitted. "Being cared for. You deserve it," he said simply. She sipped her coffee, eyes thoughtful. "Maybe you do too." It was an odd thing to hear. James had spent years convincing himself he needed nothing from anyone. But somehow, in less than 24 hours, Lily had made him wonder if that was true. Before she left, she gave him a small folded note. "For when you forget why you stopped," she said, and then she was gone. Later, alone in his office, James unfolded the note. Inside, in neat handwriting, it read, "Sometimes the smallest detours lead us home." It wasn't love yet, and maybe it never would be. But it was something that reminded him there was more to life than the next deal, the next meeting, the next climb. And maybe, just maybe, he'd start looking for more moments like the one at the bus stop.